portrait. So,
Oh, beautiful.
days.
Well done.
Yeah.
All right, we are live. What's going on, everyone? We got Self-Revealed and Jacob Farrell in the house talking about Jacob and his 1,000-day streak. What a badass. What's going on, bro? Tell us, did you just recently hit 1,000 days?
I haven't hit it just yet. However, on June 8th, which is about 20 days away or so,
Yeah,
I'll be
that's like a few
I'll be
weeks.
hitting 1,000 days on SR. It sounds pretty crazy. However, it wasn't my goal to begin with, but it's just how it has played out.
Bro, congratulations.
Yes, that's yeah. So basically, 1,000 days, no porn, no sex, and no masturbation.
Wow.
And no like releasing in general. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with how it has transpired. I can't help but think that I was supposed to do this. Yeah, I can't help but think that I've kind of had a bit of help in that regard in terms of like the temptations part of it. I don't think I had it as bad as other people. So.
Interesting. So would you say that's like a divine thing? You feel like you've been helped by God or something like that? And how has that played out for you? What does that look like?
So I think I was supposed to do it in order to overcome something that has plagued me my whole life, right? And put an end to the suffering. I had to basically prove that I was worthy of ending that suffering.
Interesting.
I'm not quite sure, but yeah, I do think that I've been. Yeah, I mean, like the fact that it's been almost 1,000 days straight, right? And that means like you hear people have like relapses here and there, right? It's I've had my temptations, right? However, it hasn't been so bad that I have lost complete control. That
Yeah.
makes sense. I've always been able to see from the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So you had a strong reason to do this. Can you tell us what that reason was?
Well, it's funny you asked that because at the very start, right, when I got onto retention, my why for doing it, it wasn't the same why as I have at the moment. At the very start, it was all of those superficial stuff. You know, I was hearing people talking about being a lot more attractive to women. I'm hearing people talk about confidence. Yeah, like it was just this whole um, whole in terms of self improvement. Like that was kind of what my motivation was at the start. However, that motivation it quickly turned into something a lot more deeper and a lot more fulfilling as time went on. Yeah.
What was that? What did that motivation become? I know you've had to overcome some challenges. I know you've mentioned having issues with some of your brain function. Can you tell us, go into a bit more depth about what that was for you?
Yeah, so for my whole life, I had a speech impediment. Um, they call it stuttering, right? And I still do have that condition for to some extent, like right now. However, it's um, as long as I go on this journey, the more that speech impediment and stutter, it is becoming part of my old self, and it is kind of it isn't it doesn't plague me anymore. It doesn't hold me back anymore. And honestly, like if I do get into trouble in terms of like my speaking, it's kind of like a shock to me now. I was like, oh, okay, it's still there. However, it isn't it doesn't dominate me, if that makes sense. I've kind of transcended in terms of being a victim to it. So yeah, so like in terms of like the brain functioning, right? In my brain, I would overthink talking, right? Like the very act of talking and speaking. I would overthink it and I would turn it into a conscious activity instead of a unconscious, subconscious, which it actually is, right? Because like most people, it is a subconscious, unconscious activity. A thought comes into their mind and it's just straight out, like you don't have to think. However, a stutterer, they they overthink every single word that they're trying to say, and instead of allowing the words to just come out, like they try to force it out, and that just it is a recipe for disaster because it isn't what comes naturally. So in my brain, I had a neural pathway that was basically conditioned for it to turn speaking into a conscious activity. And that um, is what made it so much harder because I was kind of going against the natural programming and functioning of the human body. And this condition, it affects about it is pretty common in kids under 10 years old. However, as you get into adulthood, it becomes a lot more rarer. I think about the 1% of all adults have a speech impediment, so it's quite low. However, in my life, I haven't really met anyone that also has a speech impediment, except for my dad. He has one as well. So, yeah, but it also it also caused me a lot of trouble with breathing. I'd have a lot of tension, and I'd just be always on edge and just always anxious and fearful. And I'm so grateful that I don't really feel that anymore.
So, at a root level, would you say that this condition was deeply connected to a sense of insecurity, not feeling safe? You know, that whole limbic system circuit that a lot of guys struggle with? and it was just manifesting through your speech and through these other symptoms?
Yeah, I think that's a good point because I sometimes thought to myself that I feel like it's a coping mechanism of some sort,
Yeah.
right? And I always felt safe if I would uh, consciously think about my speech, because if I'm consciously thinking about it, I won't say the wrong thing.
Mm.
And I think like that's kind of part of it. So yeah, I think that's definitely it.
What I find really interesting is that so many guys, I would say probably the majority of guys who have jumped on this SR journey, have done so because of pain to do with relationships, right? We're going to go down the rabbit hole here a bit. Pain to do with women, pain to do with feeling like they can't connect with a woman in the way that they want to, feeling like they're not enough to attract a woman, a beautiful woman into their life who they want to be with. And to me, it seems like it's all to do with this inner feeling of insecurity that a lot of us struggle with. And so we jump on SR, we start retaining our vital force, and all of a sudden we start feeling more secure within ourselves. And as you start to feel more secure, more okay with yourself, a lot of these symptoms like overthinking just fall away by themselves. Not just overthinking about what we say, overthinking about how we dress, how we walk, how we look, how like everything that men overthink. Oh, I'm not enough, I'm not muscly enough, I'm not this enough, I'm not cool enough, blah 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 blah. So would you say that overall, over the 1,000 days that it's almost been, your feelings of inner safety, security, just feeling that baseline feeling of I'm okay has drastically improved?
Absolutely. It's like your sense of self becomes so much higher, and it continues to become higher and higher the longer that you are, are on it. And yeah, and you start to think that there, uh, there, there is nothing that can defeat you, because you have just defeated like such a hard vice. And um, and yeah, so I certainly do think does it makes you it makes you just a lot more abundant in general in every facet of your life. It's just, I mean, I'm not scared of losing my job. I'm not scared of this happening and this happening, because at the moment, like I just feel like anything I need, I can make it happen, and that is a very good place to be in as a man. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, I to me it feels kind of like you've always got a strong anchor. So if you imagine you're on a boat on the water, I'm sitting in front of the water here, and in normal everyday life, when you're releasing on a regular basis, like you have no anchor. So if it starts to get stormy, you're fucked pretty quick. Like you'll get tipped over, you'll capsize, you'll get knocked around by life really hard. But when you're on SR and you're getting sort of deeper into your streak, like you're past the 1 week, you're past the 30 days, you're sitting up around 60 days plus, all of a sudden it's like you've got this strong anchor. So the waves are still going to smash you, but you're not going to get rolled around so much. You're not going to capsize. You can take really, really big hits and it doesn't really phase you. That's kind of what I've noticed.
Yeah, like your ability to withstand those real big hits, it does increase, and it becomes so high that those things in the past, like, they would have absolutely shattered you and, like, like, changed your life, like, flipped everything upside down. But now it's kind of like your ability to withstand all of that has increased so much that it just becomes kind of like a minor, like, inconvenience of some sort. I mean, it's there, it's annoying. However, it doesn't have to. As soon as you get into the victim mindset, like, things start to go downhill. And a person on retention, I think they unconsciously know that. That's I mean, if a person still viewed themselves as a victim, I don't think that they would even consider going on retention, because it's just too painful just to let go of that.
Yeah. Yeah. It is an identity, and identities do hurt to let go, because we seek that sense of safety that we get by attaching to an identity. So I wanted to ask you real quick, because my battery's on like 18%, so I got to get going soon. But I want to ask you, when did you start practicing God mode, as in not only just retaining, but letting go of lust, stopping the fantasies, stopping the perving on women, stopping the just getting in your head and imagining and all of that stuff? When did you let go of that, and what difference did that make in your retention journey, in your power levels?
Well, over my streak, I think I went through certain periods of God mode. However, I wasn't consciously aware of it, if that makes sense. Like, if you're on retention, right? If you're feeling good, right? And you go through 2 to 3 weeks, and then, like, you stop and you're like, oh shit, I actually haven't indulged in fantasizing, like, for 3 weeks, right? However, that wasn't a conscious effort at the time. It was just how things happened. I was so busy, like, doing this and this and this, that and then there are other times where I did catch myself, like, fantasizing, right? And this was the and this was how I came to the realization of just how powerful sexual thoughts are. At one stage, I was fantasizing so much that I almost relapsed. Like, it was just so powerful. And yeah, however, I didn't quite take God mode seriously until I actually joined the Sons of God for a community, after you actually explained, okay, so what is it, and what is it not? And God mode is it is certainly aiming very high, right? I don't think many can appreciate how difficult it is until, like, they actually try. In terms of effects, right? Ever since I joined from the group, my frequency of a nocturnal emissions, it improved. Right, I used to average maybe once or twice a month in terms of nocturnal emissions. However, lately it seems to be like once every 2 to 3 months. However, obviously, in order to identify a certain pattern, I'd need a bit more time. And also another one was, yeah, it has made me a lot more conscious of the whole, if a woman's walking past, like checking her out, like instinctually, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't
Yeah.
realize that you are doing this until like you actually identify it in yourself, and you're like, oh shit, like she didn't really deserve that, did she? I know that they're dressed, like very provocatively at times. However, sometimes like you do it to someone who isn't asking for it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it is definitely a next step. I'd say anyone starting out, right, try to get confidence on retention just in general, and then like once you gain that real strength and composure, like I reckon God mode is then okay, like time to progress now.
Yeah. That's what I love about this journey. There's so many levels. Once you go God mode and you've kind of got a basic handle on that, letting go of the lust, not looking at women except in their face, just not stopping the fantasies, then it's like, okay, cool, I've just gained 20% power levels. All right, now what else am I kind of giving my attention to that I don't need to? Where am I watching trash online, or where am I thinking about things, fantasizing about things that I don't want to happen in general in life? Where am I having arguments with my boss or with other people in my head? It's like, oh shit, this journey goes so deep. There's so many levels, but every time you master a new level, you increase in power, you increase in confidence, charisma, energy, attractiveness. You increase in your ability to get shit done with ease. That's the crazy thing. It's like you don't have to force everything so hard. The more you do the inner work, the more the outer world just becomes so much more agreeable and so much easier. That's what I love about this journey.
Mm.
But bro, I'm gonna have to get going because my battery's about to go. But people can find you at Jacob_Farrell. You're doing regular YouTube videos now. I've noticed you're uploading seems like every couple of days now, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
So I encourage everyone to check out Jacob's content. It's very deep. He takes the time to explain stuff, and it's not like a surface level sort of SR discussion. He goes into the details, which I really love about his content. Also, if you want to have direct access to myself and Jacob and other absolute legends, jump in the Sons of God community. You're going to have direct DM access to us. All the guys in there are really friendly, really open. So if you got questions, if you've got personal stuff you want to discuss, you can literally just DM any of us. All right, and you're going to get an answer. So the link is below for that. Jump in. I can see someone's actually joined Sons of God as we've been on the call, so that's pretty cool.
Nice.
But other than that, brothers, love you guys heaps. Is there anything else you want to say, Jacob?
First of all, thank you to everyone who is here. I appreciate anyone's support. And at some stage, Ben, I will tell you about my biggest temptation, right? Like the story of that, because I've never said that to anyone. But yeah, at some stage, I'll definitely tell you that. I think that you'll enjoy it. But yeah,
Is that
I
something you'd be
appreciate
willing
you
to
having me.
reveal? Would you be willing to reveal that on our next live call? Because
Absolutely.
I think you've piqued everyone's interest. I think everyone's a bit curious now.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I'm more than happy to go live again. So yeah, I enjoyed it. So thank you, Ben.
You're welcome, brother. All right, guys. Love you. See you all soon. Peace.